Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Halfback Dynasty. My name is Brendan. We are joined today with our co-host, the legendary Tyler Gatorsense. How the heck you feeling today, my friend?
Feeling great, Brendan. Good to see you. Good to be back. Good to hear you're feeling well. I'm feeling good, man. We got just about an hour and a half before kickoff here. No better thing than a Sunday watching your fantasy scores that inevitably aren't going to be enough, not going to be good enough. I'm still kind of reeling from last week, Brendan. I was up 70 going into Monday night. Obviously, our league format's a little bit different. We've got some bonuses. All TDs are worth 6 going against Derrick Henry and Josh Allen. About the worst combo you could go against, having a huge lead. Lost by 3. So I'm still reeling from last week a little bit. Derrick Henry pretty much good for 30 a week in our league, that's insane.
Insane. Hey, I know your pain, man. Happened to me 2 weeks ago with Lamar Jackson. So totally get it. And, that brings up a great point. I cannot recall a year with this many insane performances by players. I cannot recall a year with this many comebacks on Monday night. I cannot recall a year with this many injuries to running backs. Like, I don't know, dude. It just seems so different for some reason. And it could just be me. Are you feeling that way too?
Yeah, it's been a crazy year. Again, I think it's a little dependent on league format because I think it's all relative. If you didn't have the bonuses, you didn't have this and that, you probably would have been down 50. It's all the same, it all equals out. But yeah, your game was crazy because Lamar Jackson did essentially nothing in that first half. I think if I remember right, you were playing my brother. You were up by 45 at halftime even.
It was a lot.
And then it's just as soon as that game went to OT, it was Brendan's done. Well, and then did you, obviously the feed was going nuts, our league feed, but another game that week, Joel was down or up on Grizz by 40. And Grizz only had Mark Andrews, and Mark Andrews scored 40.5, 2 touchdowns, 30, 40, 50 yards, 2 2-point conversions. How brutal is that loss?
That's so
just
tough,
brutal.
Man. That's so tough. And, it is what it is at this point. You've been playing fantasy long enough where you get it. Sometimes you're on the favoring end of that
Totally
comeback. Sometimes you're not. And, that's why it's gambling. I've learned to just accept what is, and you could sit here and be pissed off, which clearly I was pissed off because, what 4-2 looks a whole lot worse than 5-1. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
I don't know, but at a certain point, obviously it's beyond your control. That's why this is
nothing you can do, man. Yeah, you can't play defense in fantasy football. There, you roll your best. The only thing I can say is that last week I rolled my best lineup, so I had to live with it, But it brings me to another conundrum that you and I have been going back and forth on. I legitimately lost that game because I don't have a tight end.
Yep.
And I have tried so hard this weekend to get a tight end. Can't do it. Still thinking about your trade offer. Tough one to pull the trigger on.
Dude, my trade offer is outrageous. Let's be honest. We both.
Yeah, but hey. Right, prices are prices. That trade could look better if Miles Sanders gets going, but oh my gosh, man, that looks like a big if at this point.
I agree. Okay, why don't you explain some of the offers that you've sent out, and even better, the declines that you've received?
Yeah, I've kicked around quite a few offers. Obviously, Aaron's team is a powerhouse, legit contender. Kelsey, it makes no sense for him to trade Kelsey, so I haven't even asked.
Dude, his team's dope, bro.
Oh, his team's so good. Mark Andrews is on a contending team with no backup. That's the other thing I should mention. The Kelsey and Andrews owners don't really have a backup So why would you even remotely trade those two as a
Yeah, but are there
contender?
even enough tight ends in the league to have a backup?
Yeah,
Touchdown?
there's not enough good ones. So then I asked about Schultz and Goddard.
Schultz is
Little
dope right now.
little context. Obviously, you know Brennan, but the challenging thing in our league is two owners own combined like 6 or 7 good tight end options and kind of have a monopoly on the or on the position. And hey, it's supply versus demand. They can name their price because they're the ones that have the assets. You know, it might be frustrating and seem unfair to the rest of us, but hey, they have the option. You know, it's kind of like me with wide receivers. Why would I trade any of them besides like a
Yeah, you're
crazy offer?
welcome. You're welcome, by the way. For
Yeah, so I
all those wide
appreciate
receivers.
I appreciate that. But yeah, so anyways, I pretty much got quoted 2 firsts for Goddard
Jesus,
or
bro.
Calvin Ridley for Goddard and Khalil Herbert,
In a
which
non-tight end premium league.
I
by
just
the way.
don't think Goddard's a safe tight end, you know?
He's very talented. I really like
Yeah.
him, but it's Jalen Hurts, bro.
Yeah,
Jalen Hurts
so
freaking sucks. He's good for fantasy right now, but he's such a bad NFL quarterback.
I don't
So
want to
bad.
overpay for a guy that, you know, may or may not be just like my guys who might score 3 this week or 12. You know, what's the difference? It's a different name, but unless a guy's safe, I don't want to overpay. So
What is overpaying though? Like technically,
I don't know.
like if it's league wide, then technically that's not considered an overpay. If you know what I mean, like it is like objectively, it's an overpay.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean.
But you know, it's like at a certain point, it doesn't matter what you pay because you're gonna have to pay up what somebody's.
Yeah, you're gonna have to pay it anyways. And that's where I came yesterday. I was okay to overpay for the right guy. You know, I saw it finally last week after all the trash you and I talked. I saw Kyle Pitts elite upside. Some of his catches last week were
good. They were good.
Yeah. So it's like, well, Kyle Pitts just turned 21. If I'm gonna overpay for a guy, I want to overpay for a young player that hopefully continues to grow. Kyle Pitts' value isn't going anywhere, regardless of what he does. You and I have talked about that. Mm-hmm. So I offered Ridley a first and a second.
I'd snap that so
or easy. KJ Osborne. You know, Crystal's team is, you know, young, rebuilding. And I mean, KJ Osborne isn't a for sure hit, but kid's played well, you know, in his second season.
Really well, dude.
Yeah. So really? And I haven't really heard back on that one. And the other one that she seemed more interested in was just, it wasn't an official offer, but it was 2 firsts and Ridley for Pitts, which I don't know if I can stomach that, man. That's just, if Pitts doesn't hit, that's brutal. But if he does, and he's the next Travis Kelce, you're probably thrilled you made that trade.
Yes, in this league, sure.
I don't know. And even your trade, you know, I view Gesicki the same way as I think he's better in the tight ends I have, but I think his quarterback sucks, which makes me nervous. Sure. And, you know, he fluctuates on that scale of not as much this year, but like 3 or 15, you know, so not to say that Kyle Pitts is like guaranteed 20 points or anything, you know, they all outside of Kelce, they're all over the place. Even Waller and Kittle have been not very good this year. Let's call it what it is.
Waller's definitely been
he's not the same player.
A little bit down.
So like it, I mean, but at the same time, you know, Ridley hasn't really been what he's been in the past so far. So to me, I'm stuck on the name value of Ridley, even though he's not the player he was last year. I'm not saying maybe he doesn't get better. I'm not saying he's not still, in my opinion, an elite asset. Yeah. But currently, I mean, like I always say, it's a day-to-day stock market, and Calvin Ridley right now is not worth what he was worth last year. He's just not. But
I think he's about 2 firsts.
But selling low on Ridley seems like a bad idea. So essentially, I'd be trading 4 firsts for Pitts. That's a lot, man. And obviously, you know my build. I can afford to make that trade, but is it a good trade?
Yeah. Oh, we won't know until probably like 2 more years. Go throw that on DLF, and I'm sure everyone's like, "That's a huge underpay." Like, do
Oh,
it, bro, do it.
there's 58 comments on the post I made. Most people said the value, it's absurd that these players are being priced at that. So
Goodness, man. Yeah.
but everybody said, you're going to have to overpay anyway. So overpay for Kyle Pitts, which I can't
Ridley should be
really
enough straight
argue
up,
that.
dude. Ridley already feels like an overpay for Kyle Pitts. I don't
I
know,
agree.
in a non-tight
I
end
agree.
league. So,
I mean, the trade that you and I have going or talking about, the first is what I'm held up on there. Ridley for Gesicki and Sanders still feels like an overpay, but I don't think it's
it is, bro. It's an overpay. I'm being
it is,
honest
but
with
I
you.
don't think that's an absurd ask because there's still the if Sanders gets going.
Yeah.
In
there's
2
still
months,
time.
if we make that trade and Gesicki's averaging 8 or 9 points a game, on average, that's a good tight end. And if Sanders all of a sudden is averaging 12 to 15, that's a
That's
pretty good trade.
Yeah, you get to look at positional scarcity, particularly
Exactly.
with the tight end.
You're gambling on that Sanders doesn't get going, whereas I, who needs running back help, would be gambling on that he does.
Yeah.
Most trades, you're not just like, oh, it's a lateral move. Sure, let's do it. Who cares? But each side in a trade is banking on one thing or another, and or trying to gain. You need wide receiver help.
Yep.
I need running back and tight end help. That helps us both ways, but it's a perceived overpay on my end. But at the same time, if Gesicki keeps going like he looks, 2 months from now, you might be like, man, I wish I never traded Gesicki. If Knox slows down, you're like, dude, I don't have a tight end,
Great. I'm just glad that you understand my position, that the only
course.
reason why I even hesitated, on like Ridley in a first for Gesicki and Sanders is because of the fact that you're well aware of, if you're having trouble sourcing a tight end for these absurd prices.
Absolutely, man.
I'm screwed myself if Dawson Knox doesn't continue. And honestly, Dawson Knox only has like 4 receptions on average.
Yeah, he really doesn't catch many balls.
Exactly. Granted, he's a really good target for Josh Allen in the end zone, but that's what the holdup is for my particular tight end situation. But what would I be able to give up if you can't get a tight end for Ridley in a first, which is absurd? What am I going to have to give up in the off chance that Knox slows down or things like that? So I don't know, man. That's why the league values are so different league to league. If I were to put that trade offer in any of my other leagues, everybody would snap accept it for probably any tight end. Ridley in a first should be enough to get you any tight end in the league. Seriously.
It should be enough to get you a lot of things in any league, much less. I could see not trading Kelce for that because he's impossible to replace. I don't care who you have, but
at a certain point though, you're trading.
Yeah, the value's great.
Younger. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the thing is, I think, I used to get really frustrated about the prices in this league. And, I would talk to my brother a lot about it because he's in the league, and understands the nuances of the league. But, at the end of the day, I mean, a lot of people on DLF are like, they just walk away. That's absurd. At the end of the day, the values are what they are in a league, and every league's different. This is currently where our league is. And while I agree, the value is crazy. I mean, those are the prices. And,
those are the prices.
Over the years, I've possibly made it worse for myself because I've shown this league through actions many times that if there's an asset I want, I'll go get it. I don't care what it costs me. So, Crystal holding out might just think at some point she might be right, that I'm just going to be like, okay, I'll give you 2 firsts and Ridley. Let's just do it. So, obviously I have a hand in that. So in the reverse, if you went and tried to buy one of these tight ends, I don't know what the price would be because it could be different because they're like, Brendan's not an idiot like Tyler and won't give me his whole roster to get some guy that he likes.
Eventually.
Yeah. So, I don't know if it would be the same. Obviously, Jeff is a legit contender like you and I. He knows I don't have a tight end. Why would he want to trade me a tight end?
Yeah.
It's better on his bench than in my starting lineup.
Yeah, but let's be honest. And I'm not knocking Crystal's strategy at all. I mean, obviously she holds the leverage here with the tight end situation. But at what point would you rather let them sit on your bench rather than grab these these assets that make your team a million times better that one you can use, and you get the ability to get more assets via draft. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just at a certain point, Tyler, like you just have to accept that trade.
Sure.
Does her, for example, who was rebuilding. I'm pretty sure she's rebuilding. Well,
Yeah,
she
she
got a
is.
lot of picks. Yeah,
She's
like
got a ton of picks. Yeah.
yeah, at a certain point, I mean, it's hurting her rebuild in a sense that what more could you possibly want from a
Sure.
trade like this? Like, I get it, Pitts, a lot of hype, so be it. Keep
Yeah.
Pitts,
A lot of value.
trade one of the other tight ends for a position and other draft picks that could help
Sure.
you accelerate your rebuild. So I don't know, man. Again, Ridley in the first, I'd snap, except for probably any tight end. Ridley at 2 first, bro, I'd break my
That's a lot.
keyboard or my freaking cell phone. I'd throw that out my window right now, accepting it. You know what I
That's a
mean?
lot, man. Yeah, and she I mean, she was very upfront with that she has a ton of picks. So,
Yeah.
maybe the picks
They
don't.
don't mean as much now.
Yeah, which I can
Straight
totally
up.
understand that. And for her build, I mean, Ridley's going to be 27. That's not the end of the world, but that's not young. She said she had
Well, he
interest
came
in
into the league late. Let's be
Yeah.
honest. He came
She
into
said
the
she had
league late.
interest in Ridley, Lamb, and Jefferson. And I guarantee if Jefferson or Lamb was in that deal, I don't even know if it would take a first, but I'm not trading Lamb or Jefferson for a tight end. Not happening. But for her rebuilding, those two make way more sense and are way more appealing than Ridley in a first,
Agreed.
Yeah.
But
So
also,
I get where she's coming from.
yeah, but I still believe the fact that she has other capable tight ends, like pretty dang good tight ends. Like
She got Hawkinson.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
like I'm a firm believer in a sense, like, well, it's good to have that bye week tight end, but are you ever
For
gonna
sure.
flex a tight end? Probably not, I mean, she
Yeah.
could.
I think she does because of her
Yeah.
build. I think she does is starting moving forward, flexing both, which is, obviously if Pitts continues at what people think he's basically a wide receiver, maybe his points are very worthy of a flex. But
yeah,
I think it's just, I mean, and the other thing is maybe you just don't want to move him. Like if I had drafted Pitts and was sitting on what could be a gold mine at tight end, I don't.
Well, why should she move him?
Yeah, I don't know why she would trade him, but as we got more and more into it and it was Ridley in a first, Ridley first, second, whatever, I thought maybe at some point she'd just be like, well, I'll do it for Hawkinson, which is still a win for me. It still gets me a good tight end. But I mean, she's just comfortable holding, and I can respect that because I've had offers over the years, Brendan, that were absurd. And it's just like, I'm not moving this guy. Just period,
Oh,
So
well, that's the whole point of
it.
fantasy football. You want to root for guys that you like.
Sure. I get it.
I mean, for me, unfortunately, I hate to say this, like, I play to win, and like, although I'm fans of specific players, I'll move them. I don't really care. I'm gonna build the best roster possible. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you've shown that you'll make good deals. And I mean, in the trade you and I were talking about, I mean, in reality, your team is probably better with Ridley trading those two, even though what it does to your tight end room, it just makes that.
The problem is then I'm stuck in your position right now, and I don't have as many assets to give up. So that's the way, that's the scale right there, man. That's one end to this end right here. So
yeah, I think if you were to make that trade, you just have to be comfortable that Knox is a plug and leave. You don't ever even think about not playing him.
Exactly.
And I mean, like I was coming out when I was thinking about the other two deals. It's like if I trade for Pitts or Gesicki, that's it. I'm never taking them out of my lineup, regardless of what they do. That is my tight end. Because I have Njoku, who when he gets targets, when he gets targets, he can blow up, but he never gets targets. Ingram is terrible. I don't know how, because there's nobody on that team that can catch. He should have 30 catches a game, but he sucks. And then, I mean, Jonnu Smith, what a typical New England move. They give him a ton of money to not throw him the ball. I don't even.
Hey, same with Hunter Henry. They doubled down, baby.
I just don't. Tight ends are just so ugly in fantasy, man. You either have one of the good ones or you don't.
Yeah, maybe. Like, just while we're on the topic, I mean, I'm in no position to offer you advice because you definitely know what you're doing, but maybe there's a way that you can make a ton of smaller deals and just accumulate tight ends. Like, for example, maybe there's a way that you could try to land Ricky Seals-Jones for the next couple weeks for super cheap.
Right.
Or then you go get Logan Thomas for hopefully pretty cheap. I would put Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry in that category, but clearly they're not doing anything right now. But you know what I mean? Maybe there's ways that you can accumulate. I know you said on DLF that like you'll start using your later draft picks and just take dart throws. And let's be honest, these top tight ends, they all were taken in the third, fourth, fifth round of these rookie drafts. Kyle Pitts is very unique.
Sure, man.
Hawkinson's unique and Fant's unique. Even Hawkinson and Fant though weren't like first round picks in most leagues.
Yeah, and Fant's not even that good.
He's not very good at all.
No, he's not.
But, so my point being is clearly prices are elevated amongst bigger name tight ends. But what are the prices looking like? Oh, clearly, I mean Gesicki, but I consider Gesicki like 1B tier. You know what I mean? Like he's good, he's capable, but he's not. He's tight end 1, which is not that impressive if you really look at it. But
yeah,
I still would group him in like the larger name, you know, the bigger name of tight end.
Yeah, he's like a tier 2. Yeah,
exactly.
Totally.
Tier 2. That's perfect.
Yeah.
So, but what are prices on those types of guys? I don't know why Logan Thomas for a contender really stands out to me. Dalton Schultz, as you mentioned, you know, are people still asking a first? Because that's probably still pretty steep, but maybe there's a way you can accumulate multiple, and then you have the frustration of figuring out which one to start, which sucks. But at least you have that opportunity to hit a dart. Though. Think about me, who's been sitting on Dawson Knox now for over a year. Dude, he sucks. I'm gonna be honest, Dawson Knox is not that good. But he's performing right now, right?
Yeah, he scores touchdowns.
Exactly. So the fact that I have him on my roster, just sitting there when there's nobody else on waivers, it's a dart throw that's finally turning into something. Do you have that ability to go after tight ends like that? For
I mean, I've looked at some of that, and I think, fair or not, Brendan, the issue is everybody knows how badly I need a tight end and how many wide receivers, good young wide receivers I own. Sure. So I think regardless, everybody always looks at my strength and is like, well, you don't need T. Higgins. Yeah. So the price is T. Higgins. And, you know, I would never move Higgins for Ricky Seals-Jones, for Henry, for, you know, if I didn't own Jonnu Smith, you know, but I get where everybody else is coming from, because I looked at your roster. Yeah, when I looked at your roster, when you were like, well, what could we work around for Ridley? And it was like, I need a running back badly because Vernon Jones gets hurt. Connor's played okay, but I don't think you feel good rolling James Conner or Zach Moss. Like, I need a running back.
Zach Moss, such a disappointment, man. I really.
Yeah, he had a couple good weeks, and then he just kind of. But anyways, like, I looked at your team, and I did the same thing that people do with wide receivers. It's like, I mean, Brendan can afford to move Miles Sanders.
Yep.
He has CMC and Kamara, you know, and I mean, so I get you're always looking at somebody's roster as like, it's like Steph. She has Chubb, Dobbins, who's her? She's got some other Taylor. Yeah, you know, she's just littered with running backs. Where you look at those kind of rosters and you're like, I mean, you might not even play Dobbins next year when he's healthy. You know, so. I get people are always trying to go from a position of strength. And, you know, when I went to Jeff, I thought, you know, he can afford to move those guys, a Goddard or a Schultz. But I'm also hesitant on Schultz because Gallup's been hurt for so long. What happens to his targets when all three of those guys?
Organization. He's a free agent after this year.
Yeah.
He's not going to repeat what he's doing if he doesn't resign.
So I'm hesitant to pay the price of him. You know, maybe a great 1-year rental, but until we see how the targets distribute with all three of their wideouts, I think he's a risky buy.
Yeah.
But yeah, you just always, my strength is wide receiver. So people always are asking for like a Jerry Jeudy, a T. Higgins, a Brandon Ayuk, you know, players like that, you know, their value is probably higher than what I'm getting back, but on my team, they're expendable.
Yeah.
But, you know, that doesn't mean you want to trade a player for less because they're expendable. That's how rosters start to break down.
Yeah, it's tough, but the good news is you set yourself up really well to have big names being expendable assets. I mean, there's not many other teams in any other leagues I'm in that can say, "Oh, I can afford to give up Ridley." You know, that's
Yeah.
pretty impressive when you really break it down, especially giving up Ridley for a no-name tight end. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I look at this week with all the bye weeks, obviously I'm without CeeDee Lamb and Jefferson, but the fact that I plug in Godwin and Higgins, yeah, I mean, that's pretty good. Obviously Higgins hasn't hit, but he's probably still kind of working his way back to health. But the other thing I looked at last night, because we were just hanging out watching Ted Lasso. Great show, by the way. Don't know if you
Nice.
watched that one. It was like you're 4-2. You're one of the highest scoring teams in the league. Last week hurt bad because I lost straight up because of a tight end. But at the same time, it's a week 6 loss. Who cares? You didn't win or lose the playoffs or a title hope because of it. That I try really hard after years and years and years of making really bad snap decision trades that maybe just sit on this week, see what happens, start talking again. Maybe Jonnu Smith goes for 18 today. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, maybe Jonnu Smith's coming out of his shell. It's all so weak. Look at you, man. You were ready to blow your team up. And then in an afternoon, you're back to contending. Fantasy football. Yeah, fantasy football is just brutal, man. You're either like, oh, my team's fantastic, or you're like, oh my God, I have to make a trade.
I can't believe I won last night. I cannot believe I won. After
that was big because Aaron's team's so good, man. And he had a down week,
That's the thing, is I was projected to lose by like 20, 30 points. And all of a sudden, like, you shouldn't base things off projections, but like
that's what you're looking at.
Exactly. They kept getting closer and closer. And I was like, you know what? Like, with how things are going and how people value assets in this league, I figured like there's no better time than right now to sell Christian McCaffrey.
Sure.
So, I mean, I know he's hurt and whatnot, but the longer I wait, the less people are going to pay. And as you've mentioned, you think DeAndre Hopkins is probably a first round value, right? Which to me still feels very light. It really does. But I'm only going to sell him for what somebody's willing to pay. So,
and I offered you the 2. I thought that was fair, but I understand why you were like, dude, I just want to see what happens this week. Because coming out, if you had made that trade, if you had made that trade heading into the weekend or the afternoon games, because we had all day to make it, you probably wouldn't be pleased right now. And guess what? My game wouldn't have been as close because I would have benched CeeDee Lamb, who had 35.
Nice.
So
it's
just
the world works, man. It's the way of the world.
Yeah. Fantasy's tough and you never know what to do. And it seems like half the time the things you do, I mean, how many trades have blown up in our faces over the years? A ton.
I made some bad trades in mine.
Yeah. And you can't undo it, and that's why I'm sitting here today. And it's like, your trade, I don't know if I'd make it before kickoff, but that's one that moving forward, I can see the value for both of us there. And this is going to sound stupid or like, I don't even know. I like when a deal is right for both teams. I try not to like,
you're not fleecing.
Oh, I won this deal and that was a terrible trade for that. Like, I'm not interested in that. I'm really not. But like,
it makes sense. I get it. Totally.
Yeah.
Get it.
This was one of those where it's like, I think I just need to sit on it. Just relax for a week.
I'll tell you right now, documented, I will accept Calvin Ridley in a first round pick for Gesicki and Sanders. I fully will do that trade. You take your time on it. You're obviously paying the bigger end of the stick right now. There's no doubts about it. But you know what? You get that tight end you've been waiting for, who is top 5 tight end right now currently.
For sure.
Right? I mean, it is what it is. And then you also get Sanders, who, if the Eagles, finally have a good coaching system, then maybe they'll play him and give him more reps. But, it's fair based on these leagues' prices.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even going to argue that. The prices are what they are. And, I mean, it feels heavy, but let's say hypothetically Ridley comes out and scores 8.5. Gesicki scores 15.5 and Sanders blows up for 22.
That's a dub.
You come out of that and you're like, oh my God, what a great trade.
Yep. Until
but if
gets all the carries next week. So
yeah, and then if we make the trade today and Ridley goes for 35 and the other two combined for 6, you're like, you're just devastated. There's no. That's a trade, man.
Long-term investments don't. Yep. And this is something I carry over into the real world with my family's business. You can't look at day-to-day operations. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, you can, but you need to look at the overall picture. And
Yep,
even the best of studs will have 6-point weeks.
for sure.
Besides Derrick Henry, but it is what it is at this point, and you need to look at what really is the best fit for your roster, what gives you the opportunity for the most wins on average, and what gives you the opportunity to excel in playoffs.
Yeah.
I've traded superstar wide receivers, 22, 23-year-old receivers last year, which obviously I'm feeling very bad about now, but you know what? You know what? I won. And
Yeah, you won the
played
title.
away. At a certain point, are you going to sit here and keep accumulating young stud assets and not
Yeah.
win? Or are you going to just go for it? And you know what? Even if I don't win for another 3 years, that's okay because I won. And
It's hard to win, man.
Here. Exactly. A lot of things have
Hard
to
to
go
win.
right. And once you win, then you can reset the clock. I mean, unless you have a true dynasty roster, which honestly, I'm starting to believe that winning a fantasy football league 2 years in a row is more difficult than winning the Super Bowl 2 years in a row.
But, there's no question. There's no question.
But in the end, man, you play your best roster. You make moves that you think
play your best
roster week to week. If you lose one because of Mark Andrews or because of Lamar Jackson, because of Derrick Henry or Josh Allen, you take the loss and you look towards next week and hopefully you get the dub. So I don't know, man. You need to get your tight end. You're going to get your tight end. And overall, it'll round out your roster a little bit more. So,
well, and I think what you said there at the end, Brendan, is key to everybody. These games don't matter. Let's be honest. I mean, I've told you I've lost 5 combined games in 2 years in this league, and I'm 0-2 in the first round in those 2 years. Who cares?
You suck.
I was 11-2 and 10-3. Who cares? I don't care if I make the playoffs at 500 and go on a run and win it. It doesn't matter. There's 3 games in the fantasy calendar that matter. Obviously, you got to get there. I mean, if you're 0-6 right now, you're like, I'm probably not going to make the playoffs. So all these games do matter. Yeah. But for the teams that are middle of the pack to upper that know they have a good roster, probably going to win more than they lose, these games mean nothing. And I used to get super I don't want to say upset. That sounds dramatic, but I used to get really frustrated on Sundays when you're going to lose. And now it's like, who cares? 4-2 or 5-1. Yeah. I'm going to make the playoffs either way. You're going to make the playoffs in this league. Who cares?
I mean,
you got to be not a bottom 14. That's it.
Exactly. Yeah. But you still want to see your players excel because it increases trade value.
Oh, yeah. You always want to win it.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. But, before we sign off, you brought up something that made me think of this. Like, yeah, I throughout my dynasty experience and my dynasty career, dynasty career, I love that. Full-time job.
There you go.
Full-time job. But I contend in most of my leagues, and I've only started to rebuild in one league. So I'm still very new at rebuilding through my 4 or 5 years of playing.
Sure.
But there is a lot less pressure when you rebuild because of the fact that you can move guys and technically lose current value if you hope it gives you a dart throw in the future. So yeah, a big part of that is like, I have no issue losing week to week in my rebuild. I just hope my guys do well enough because I'll sell them for literally anything. Because when I'm ready to contend in 2 years, they're gone. Brandon Cooks is a guy like that right now. Like Brandon Cooks is severely undervalued, but he produces pretty well week to week. 10 to 15 points, which what more can you want, especially during bye weeks, right? But he's the type of player that like I'm willing to move. He should probably be valued as a first, if we're being honest, based on his production. And, he's almost guaranteed 1,000 yards a year, which is pretty impressive. But I'm willing to take a second for him because I don't think he's going to be worth much in 2 years. So,
yeah, there's way less pressure there.
Exactly. Contending is dope. Like, it's cool. I mean, you play to win, but you have to sit there and be like, okay, who am I going to start this week? What are the matchups? What am I going to do if I lose? What trades do I need to make to give away my younger assets to try to contend? So I don't know.
And you're expecting to win.
Building. Exactly. See,
you're expecting, if you're rebuilding, like you're rebuilding league, Brendan, I guarantee you're expecting to lose today.
Dude, I got my first dub this past week against the second last place team. So,
but you're expecting to lose today?
I don't expect another dub.
Yeah. See, so there's less like you said, the pressure sounds you know, like it's all just you want to win. But like, yeah, if you're rebuilding, I excuse me, I rebuilt for a year and I expected to lose. I wanted to lose. I
Yeah,
wanted
that's
the
the thing.
number
You want
one
your
pick
picks to be better.
because
Yep.
it was Barkley's year.
Mhm.
Of course, I got the 1-2, the 1-3, and the 1-4. But what are you gonna do? But
Would you take Chubb, Penny, Freeman, or
I,
something?
I looked incredible coming out of that because I had the 1-2, the 1-3, the 1-4, and the 1-7.
Jesus, super
I
heavy
took
here.
Chubb, Geis, Sonny Michelle, and Kyrian Johnson, which coming out of that draft, everybody in the league was like, oh my God, dude, your running backs are just set.
Nuts.
You're
Yeah.
so good. And then, I mean, fast
That's
forward.
why you draft wide receivers now.
Yep. Fast forward. Chubb's the only good one in the group. So, but yeah, on draft day, it was like, oh, this is incredible.
Fantasy
And I was
wise,
such a
baby.
Geis fan, man. I would have taken Geis over Barkley, as stupid as that
Wow.
sounds. Because I mean, that kid looked like he had it all, you know?
Yeah, he was cold. He was cold. It's too
Yeah.
bad his actions didn't help him out there. So
For sure. But yeah, Chubb, the only one that hit, and all those guys looked. I mean, Sonny Michelle with his pass catching looked like he was going to be not like Christian McCaffrey, but that type of back that he can run, he can catch.
yeah.
This dude's going to put up crazy
It's
numbers.
crazy to think that
never
Chubb
did.
and Michelle played for the same college at
Yeah.
the same time, and they both were premium picks in the draft. Like, it blows my mind the fact
it's
that
crazy,
they got
man.
split backs that just all performed so well. Like, 1,400-yard seasons, which in
Yeah.
college, I mean, in order to be a top back, you got to get like 70 receptions and not 70, like 40 receptions and 1,500 yards. So
It's crazy, man. And then you factor in the Chubb and Michelle backed up Gurley. I mean, you can take it a year.
My God, dude. What a legendary
Take it
photo
further
of all
back, you
three of
know?
them. Yeah, there's a photo of all three of them like standing
crazy.
into the stadium. Dope. That's
It's
that's
nuts,
one of the
man.
best running back groups of all time in college, man. Like,
Yeah,
really.
it's kind of like Alabama and their receivers when you go back a few classes, and it's like, wow, they had Ridley, Judy, Ruggs,
Mike
Smith.
Williams. Mike Williams
Yeah.
might have been a little too early, actually.
Williams went to Clemson.
Oh, he was Clemson. Okay,
Yeah.
true. Okay.
So they had Ridley, Judy, Ruggs, Smith, and Waddle all on the same team. And I think OJ Howard was the tight end at that point. It's
That's
just
nuts.
you think
That's
about like
crazy.
I mean, Smith and Waddle didn't even play.
Yeah. That's
It's
wild.
nuts, man.
Hey, you know what? Hey, I'd be happy to sit a year if I knew it'd elevate me to first round draft capital in the NFL. I wouldn't mind.
For sure, man.
Part
But
of-
yeah, it's just getting back on track, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. It's easier to make trades, yeah, when you're rebuilding, I think. Because a contending roster, you make a trade that blows up, it could really hurt your team.
Oh yeah, set you back. Then
You
you're
know,
rebuilding.
like in my shoes, if Ridley gets back on track of being a top 5 producing wide receiver and I trade him, I mean, I have the depth, but that still hurts.
Yeah, I gotta be honest, man. I'm gonna pull that offer in 40 minutes. So you better figure it out. You got 40 minutes to figure it out.
I don't think I'm making anything this morning.
I'm just joking, dude. The
As-
offer will still stand unless Gesicki. I don't think he's on bye, is he? I don't think he
No,
is.
he's playing.
Yeah.
He's projected at like 9.8 or something.
All I'm gonna say, man,
So-
if he has another big week, it's gonna make the trade a little bit more difficult to make, baby.
Yeah, and that goes back to the day-to-day stock market, man. I get it.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, I mean, sitting here, I really want to make that trade. I really, really do. I think I'm going to sit on it because it's like I obviously got into a bit of a frenzy Friday night when it was like 2 firsts and Ridley for Pitts. Is that a good deal?
Yeah.
Obviously, you're in a bit of a frenzy if you're thinking that's a good deal.
Hey, heaven forbid, but watch Ridley get hurt today.
Something will happen, man. Yeah, you and I are going to be in different. You and I are in different states, buddy. But you pay attention to Ridley, Pitts, Gesicki, and Sanders today. I'll do the same. Something terrible is going to happen to one of them, or one of them's going to go for like 90 points. Something ridiculous will happen with one of the 4 of them today.
Oh, I'll be on the lookout. Cool, man. Hey, well, you know what? Let's call it. Let's start preparing. I got to set up my second TV out here, get Red Zone going.
There you go.
I'm excited. I'm excited to watch the Bears lose to an injured Tampa Bay Bucks team. But hey, man, great episode as always. You know what? I'm very happy that we primarily talked about tight ends. I think that it's overlooked very frequently. So I
Sure.
really appreciated the conversation this morning.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. It was nice. It's good to get somebody's second opinion. Not that you and I haven't been texting this weekend about it all, but it's nice to get a verbal opinion that yeah,
Bad
I'm
trade,
not.
but you got to do it. So
Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do? So we'll see coming out of this week if I make a bad trade, or I'm interested to see what all four of them do today. I
yeah,
really am.
yeah. Well, maybe
It'll
you'll get
make
a slightly better deal if my guys suck. So
yeah, it'll
hopefully.
make it even an extra little bit more fun today, watching Red Zone and stuff.
I love it, man. Cool, cool. Hey, well, yeah, good luck this week.
You too, man.
Everybody who watches this, good luck to yourself. Please feel free to go on dynastyleaguefootball.com. We haven't been plugging it as much, but really, really valuable website, great community and everything. So enjoy your week. Tyler, you know the deal. You're in this for life. So don't make stupid trades, baby. Don't make stupid trades.
I'm fighting it right now.
Dope, dope. All right, everybody. Have a good weekend.